Hello, welcome to Manga Comic TV's reaction segment where we react to all your hottest debate topics on the internet. And today we have Frank Castle, aka The Punisher. And the question we're answering today is, would Frank Castle, aka The Punisher, clean up Gotham City? Could The Punisher clear the Gotham City Gauntlet, the villain edition? Now, I want to react to this creator that goes on to state that The Punisher could take down Joker, Riddler, Bane, Poison Ivy, and he basically uses this as the premise to say The Punisher could clear Gotham City without even mentioning villains like Croc, Solomon Grundy, Slade, or Ink. And I know that last one may be a surprise to a lot of you guys, but Ink is an absolute beast and she deserves to be mentioned.
Can the Punisher do what the Bat couldn't do for so long, clean the streets of Gotham? Now, this doesn't mean that the Punisher can be Batman, it just means that he has a different method. Punisher shoots first and asks questions later, where Batman loves chatting with his rogues. Riddler is getting one tap. Frank is not for the cute riddles. It's going to be troublesome to locate him, but when he does, Frank wins this with 0% difficulty. Scarecrow's fear toxins will give Frank trouble, but having studied his target, Frank will know not to go in without a gas mask, or snipe him from afar. Frank wins this again with 0% difficulty. Mr. Freeze is getting blasted in the face. No helmet and he cannot survive without the cold. Either way, the bullet does the job. Frank wins with 0% difficulty. Bane is a tough one. If Frank is serious about cleaning the city, he is going for the most efficient method, and that is to snipe Bane. Doing so will be 0% difficulty. If he goes in guns blazing, he still takes it, but with 10 to 15% difficulty. The same is said about Poison Ivy. Being in close combat will prove troublesome, but Frank will bring in tons of explosives and will get the job done with 15 to 20% difficulty.
Now, before we dive into this debate, let's talk about Frank Castle. Who is Frank Castle? Who is the Punisher? Well, the Punisher is an anti-hero from Marvel Comics that was created by writer Jerry Conway and artist John Ramirez Sr. and Ross Andru. The Punisher made his first appearance in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 129 in February 1974. Now listen, when discussing the Punisher, it's important to note that the Punisher is essentially just human, except he's peak human like Batman, but Frank Castle does have some crazy feats. But one thing that's important to mention when discussing the Punisher is the Punisher is literally one of the most plot armoriest characters ever. Now, unlike Batman, who generally doesn't kill, which is some bullshit because we've all seen Batman kill on several occasions, Frank Castle usually only has one thing on his mind, and that's to kill as many criminals as possible, as fast as possible, and to never stop. Frank Castle is an unrelenting force of nature. He's consumed by guilt over past transgressions, and he has no self-respect. Frank Castle has no friends or family, he just is. And the crazy thing about Frank Castle is, he's never characterized as being super strong, he's just characterized as being super deadly. On top of everything I just mentioned, not only is Frank Castle an absolute unit when it comes to killing people, but Frank Castle is seemingly immortal as he just refuses to die. There's been several times where the Punisher's been badly or brutally damaged, or he just takes a slew of bullets to the chest and just keeps on coming. The guy's an absolute force of nature, and he's someone most people do not want to tangle with. Now, when discussing the victims of Frank Castle, it is important to note that the Punisher has killed people that are inescapably stronger than him to the point where it almost just doesn't make much sense. One of whom being Deadpool, whose massive healing factor makes him nigh unkillable. Not to mention, Deadpool's unpredictable, chaotic mind makes him less susceptible to psychic attacks, but Frank Castle managed to kill Deadpool by dismantling him and scattering his remains all across the city, and this in fact did kill Deadpool. The Punisher has also managed to take out Venom, as at one point when the Punisher was tangling with Venom, just like Batman, the Punisher usually comes prepared, and when Venom attacked him at one point, he pulls out a specialized electricity pistol and electrocutes Venom to death. The Punisher would even take out Spider-Man, as at one point the Punisher would ambush Venom and Spider-Man in the sewer where Castle had set up traps in order to immobilize Spidey and Venom. After dispatching Venom, the Punisher would go on to put one in Spider-Man's dome, and when asked why he did this, his reasoning was simply because someone had to be first. At one point, Frank Castle would even lure the entire X-Men to the moon, including Magneto, where Frank Castle would go on to nuke the moon and take out the entire X-Men cast in one foul swoop. Then on top of all that, I don't know if you guys ever played the Punisher video game, but the Punisher video game was fucking badass. And he had this crazy ass rage mode where he would go into Punisher mode and he would just absolutely decimate everything and leave nothing but destruction in his wake. And sometimes he would even pull out 2 knives and carve motherfuckers up like a goddamn turkey. So when talking about Frank Castle, you have to understand he's one of those characters that can kill a lot of motherfuckers that are way stronger than him because of reasons. Now, when we're talking about Gotham City, although Frank Castle is one of the most overpowered, underpowered characters ever, I'm not sure he's beating the Gotham City Gauntlet. Now, first up in the Gotham City lineup, you have Harley Quinn and the Joker. Now listen, these guys might give Frank Castle a little bit of trouble, but the truth is, they only give Batman trouble because Batman allows them to give him trouble. Frank Castle doesn't give out any warning shots, so most likely the Joker and Harley Quinn are getting domed. Next up, you have the Riddler. Now, in order for Frank to take out the Riddler, he has to find the Riddler first, and the Riddler is one crafty motherfucker. But Frank Castle is also one crafty motherfucker, so assuming he finds the Riddler's getting absolutely dome-shotted. Next up, we have Scarecrow. Now, the only chance Scarecrow would possibly have against the Punisher is to hit him with fear gas. And if he can't hit Punisher with any kind of chemical agents, he's absolutely finished. And the truth is, even if he does hit him with chemical agents, he might still end up getting dome-shotted or carved up like a goddamn turkey. Next up, we have the Penguin. Now, the Penguin is a wild card because the Penguin is actually extremely smart and the Penguin is fucking ruthless. So it might actually be kind of hard for the Punisher to get past the Penguin, but at the same time, he nuked the fucking X-Men, so I'm just gonna give this one to him. Next up in the Gotham City lineup, we have Bane. Now, is the Punisher getting past Bane? Yes. I know Bane is fucking nutty strong, and Bane has been shown to be able to lift metric tons. Bane is actually pretty fucking smart too, based off of the way he dealt with Batman, but the Punisher would probably be able to deal with Bane a lot easier than people think. The Punisher can also potentially hand-to-hand Bane, although he's better off keeping his distance, but I'm giving this one to the Punisher. Next up, we have Killer Croc. Now, is Punisher getting past Killer Croc? Fuck no. Killer Croc is nutty strong with his power being compared to several large alligators, but people have also stated Croc to be stronger than Bane, and I'm not so sure about that at base. He's even traded blows with Bane before, with him absolutely beating through other villains in the past. He even went on to mutate into a bigger, more animalistic version of a Croc, and he survived being electrocuted. Then, on top of all that, this motherfucker went on to mutate even further into a Hydra. Then on top of that, as Wonder Woman was trying to defeat him, she states that she only knows 2 or 3 people that can take out a Hydra, and I doubt the Punisher is on that list. Killer Croc also has some other crazy ass feats, but I don't think it matters because I don't think the Punisher is getting past Killer Croc. Next up, we have Slade, and listen, I mean this in the most respectful possible way, but there's probably nothing that Frank Castle, the Punisher, can do that Slade cannot do better and more efficiently. When it comes to a matchup between these two, Slade simply outskills the Punisher in every way. There have been far too many times where Slade has shown that he can take on the mightiest heroes in the DC universe with ease. Slade even almost single-handedly took out the Justice League before, and that's a feat I'm not sure Frank Castle can pull off. And when it comes to a fight between the Punisher and Deathstroke, Deathstroke does him so dirty that it's really not even a fight. And it's funny because Deathstroke really doesn't have any superpowers either. He's just another peak human. But when we're talking about peak humans, Deathstroke is like peak. It doesn't matter who you are in the DC universe unless you're like fucking Superman or something. Deathstroke is going to be a hard night out for anyone. Next up, we have Solomon Grundy. And Solomon Grundy is actually extremely underrated, as Solomon Grundy has clashed with the Justice League many times. Solomon Grundy was a fucking member of the Legion of Doom. Solomon Grundy is actually already dead, so he can't simply be killed. Then on top of that, the guy is considered to be pretty much indestructible with strength on par with a Kryptonian. There's been several times where Solomon Grundy has gone toe-to-toe with Superman and low-key battered him up. So In a fight between the Punisher and Solomon Grundy is beating that ass. Next up we have Ink, and I know some people might be mad about this one, but I don't give a fuck. Ink is a polymorph from the Batman Beyond universe, and being a polymorph, she can shapeshift into almost anything, and her body is made of this black ink-like substance due to a mutagenic treatment that befell her, so she's nigh unkillable. Almost every time Batman has tangled with her, he's ended up getting his ass absolutely handed to him. Ink is so fucking deadly, and the only reason she didn't kill Batman a long time ago is because old Batman ended up saving young Batman's ass a couple of times. In a pinch, Ink can potentially make short work of anybody, so in a fight between her and the Punisher, she absolutely decimates the Punisher. Now listen, I know I'm going to lose someone with what I say next because someone's going to consider this a pretty outrageous claim, but the Punisher probably cannot simply kill Poison Ivy, especially without getting killed his damn self. When it comes to power, Poison Ivy is probably one of the most powerful beings in Gotham City. Now look, powerful doesn't necessarily mean the most dangerous, as Ivy is generally as dangerous as she wants to be. And look, I know there's going to be someone listening to this that probably thinks I'm smoking some major dope, but Poison Ivy is not just a planetary threat, she's potentially a galactic threat if she wants to be. Like, this bitch is so strong, she could potentially terraform a planet. And not just that, Poison Ivy is also connected to the Green. For those of you that don't know what the Green is basically an entire quantum realm, with it being described as one of the elemental forces of the universe, inherited and connected to all forms of plant life. So basically what I'm saying is Poison Ivy is kind of underrated. If you're coming to kill Poison Ivy and you can see her, you might already be too close. Because let's just say you do manage to get her, her plants will most likely get you. Then on top of that, as soon as you've entered this bitch's domain expansion, you're likely breathing in toxic spores from the beginning, in which case you're really fucked, because at that point you're pretty much just a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. And let's just say you manage to kill her before she gets you, in which case it's not really clear if this bitch can permanently be killed for the simple fact that she's connected to the Green. So in theory, as long as there's any bit of plant life somewhere in the galaxy, this bitch can potentially regrow herself. Then on top of that, you know who else is connected to the Green that Ivy is connected to? Swamp Thing. And Swamp Thing is definitely a galactic threat, and I really don't think Punisher wants those problems. Hell, I really don't think Punisher can even deal with those problems. So does the Punisher clear the Gotham City Gauntlet? Fuck no. Thank you guys for watching. Likes, comments, and subs are all greatly appreciated. Or leave a dislike on the video so I know to do better next time. Have a great day, guys. Peace.